W5FC. MCOMNet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
This is N5BB. I'll be starting Skynet here in about 2 or 3 minutes. If you need to use this repeater, please do so before I start the net. This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. Hold on just a moment. We'll get this net started. This is N5BB. My name's Bill. I'll be net control station for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime sky and the daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open for all amateurs interested in the topic. We encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for this net. Stations of priority emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using a post sign break in their call sign. This is the directed net. Please do not transmit from direct net control. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates at 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. If anybody was looking for the electronic sign-in, please go back to W5FC.org, refresh your browser. That's right, reload the page, and you will see the electronic link. Check-in link there at the top. Thank you. Tonight, the Saginaw Half-Slit Amateur Radio Club repeater W5BYT will also be carrying Skynet via All-Star Link. This repeater soars Fort Worth, Northwest Tarrant and Parker counties on 145.300 megahertz, PL tone 110.9 with a negative offset. Feel free to check in on either of these repeaters tonight. Although the electronic check-in is much easier. This repeater is expected to stay linked through Afterglow as well until 12 midnight. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online at www.w5fc.org. Remember to tell others about this popular net. As I mentioned earlier, you can check in this net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look at the top news item for tonight's Skynet announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. If you tried this earlier, it didn't work, just refresh your browser screen, and it should work now. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too, over the air in Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. I'll go through this very quickly. General announcements. Texas Astronomical Society, National Space Society, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, Space Exploration and History, Constellation of the Week, Space Launches of the Week, Visible Satellite Passengers over the next couple of days. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So this is N5BB and this is Skynet. Hold on a moment. Sorry, I'm juggling several things going on here. Next, let's look for short time. Let's see. I was going to tell you who has checked in already. Currently, we have Tom, K5ICX, myself, Robert, AA5AH, Travis, KF5PGM, Clay, N5OF, Brian, K9AHO, Chaz, KF5JHA, Antonio, KG9SG, Dustin, AB5DM, and Joed, KJ5NTA. Thank you very much. Those stations checked in by going to w5fc.org, and they checked in over there. You can do the same thing, or you can check in here. So let's look right now for short-time RF check-ins. If you'd like to check in short time, you can't stay very long, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is Skynet, and this is N5BB, looking for short-time check-ins. One more try. Do we have any short-time check-ins for Skynet?
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, Thomas, and Grapevine.
Kilo India 5, Whiskey, Whiskey Tango, Joe in Lancaster, mobile.
November 0, Mike Delta, Ed in North Richland Hills.
Very good. We picked up 3 short-time check-ins. Thomas, KF5JCM, Joe, KF5WWT, and Ed, N0MD on Echolink. Thanks to all of you. Okay, now let's go into RF check-ins. We will do Echolink a little later, although right now we may not have any Echolink. We'll see. So, if you'd like to check in on voice, please do so now. Please come check in with your call sign, your name, and your city. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet, looking for RF check-ins.
Kilo November 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. Al from Allen.
This bit. Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra. It's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill at Farmers Branch. And Bill just lets you know that the Saginaw repeater has been connected through All-Star, so like it's northwest Fort Worth in there. Tampa is the Bill.
Okay, let's break there. Yes, Bill, I announced that earlier. I know it was going to be connected, and I'm glad it is. Now I recognize Al, KN5EEE, Jacob, KG5UFR, Gus, W5GUS, Virginia, NV5F, and Bill, KF5ZBL. And thank you very much, Bill, for all the information. Okay, do we have any other RF check-ins or check-ins via All-Star? Either way, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Alpha Charlie 5, Victor Charlie, Cecil, and Mesquite.
Alpha India 5, Oscar Lima, Dan, Southwest Fort Worth.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
Okay. We picked up Cecil, AC5VC, Dan, AI5OL, and James, KG5WVL. Oh, let's see, no Echolink or the web form. So do we have anybody else that would like to check in via any mode? If so, please come now. Nothing heard. If there's anybody over in the Saginaw area, you're welcome to check in. We just haven't heard anybody yet. So, next, this is N5DB, and this is Skynet, sponsored by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Now let's start for general announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements? This is something of interest to amateur radio operators. It could be ham-related news, astronomy, or space, something of general interest to hams. If you have any such items, please come now with your call sign only. Well, somebody blipped the repeater, but nothing else. If you're trying to check in or make a comment, please try again. Nothing heard. This is Skynet and 5DB net control. So let's move forward with announcements. I've got a couple. Coming up on Wednesday, August the 5th, at 06:35 Universal Time. That's 1:35 a.m. 1:35 a.m. Central Time this coming Wednesday. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket upper stage is expected to impact the moon near the Einstein and Bell craters. This is on the moon's western limb, but visible from the Earth. This Falcon 9 upper stage rocket booster was left over from the launch of the successful Firefly, that's an Austin area company, their Blue Ghost 1 lunar lander mission, which landed on the moon a few months back. The debris central spike from the collision is expected to extend perhaps 75 to 100 kilometers, 60 miles, that's center surface, and is expected to be visible from the Earth using a telescope. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is a NASA satellite that's been orbiting the moon for many years, taking pictures, it passes over this area about 7 days before, so it's already passed over, and about 7 days after, it'll be going over this area. So, comparison of those photos will show what happened from the debris. There is a link, which it's going to be probably impossible for me to read it out on the web, on the voice here. If you're logged in at our on the web, the YouTube streaming of this meeting, hopefully you can see it. Hopefully Tom's showing it over there. I'm not looking at that now. But it's an arxiv.org URL, and it's got more details about what's going to happen with that collision. This is greatly anticipated because it's thought that this man-made object colliding with the moon will have a different effect than a meteor colliding with the moon. And nobody's sure exactly what will happen. So there's a lot of interest in checking it out. They're really interested in finding out how big the debris area is. It may go a long distance, like 1,000 kilometers. This is important for future moon bases, because if you have a moon base, you don't want collisions from other objects throwing up junk onto your base, maybe big pieces of junk. So they really worry about what this collision is going to do. Without any atmosphere and with a low gravity, things go a long distance on the moon. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. I've got one more news item. I hope everyone listening has been watching the series Once Upon a Time in Space. This is a new 2026 4-part documentary series on PBS. On the local KERA TV channel, it has been shown Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. This series is from the point of view of those who experienced the space race, including their families. In addition to listening on KERA TV at 8 p.m. this coming Tuesday, which, by the way, is during the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting, there are other ways to watch. You can do it online. So episode 4, this is the last of this initial series of 4 episodes, is during this coming Tuesday, August the 4th, during the DARC meeting. The title of it is Friends Forever. And this episode is about wars on the Earth, how they affected the International Space Station. Because there were Russians up there, and there were Russian wars on the Earth. So it's very interesting. You can see more about this by going to the KERA website. There's a link. But if you do a web search for Once Upon a Time in Space, Kera, you'll probably be able to get to the site. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Got some other announcements. The AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has various nets available. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., there's a national AMSAT net. You go to www.amsatnet.com. Or on Echolink, under groups, you look for asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. There's two local nets. On Tuesday evenings, you go to the AMSAT net East. It's on this repeater at 8 p.m. Tuesday evenings. The trouble is, that'll be when the Dallas Amateur Radio Club is meeting, so that net is skipped on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting nights. But later this month, you can go on this repeater at 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening to check into the AMSAT net. Also on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m., there's another AMSAT net on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater with a 110.9 megahertz PL tone positive offset. Both these nets are about amateur satellite operation. You do not need to be a member of any organization to participate in those nets. Okay, one more try. Do we have anybody else with any other announcements? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Got a few more announcements about nets on this repeater. On Monday evening, it's the first Monday of the month, at 7 p.m., there will be the cooking net. We call it ham fixings net. So come if you like to cook or hear about recipes. There's other nets on other Mondays during the month. Every Saturday evening, we have a night of nets. At 7 p.m., we have TechNet, where we talk about technical things and news involving amateur radio. From 9 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night, we have this net, Skynet. We talk about astronomy, space, and space exploration. Then at 10:30 p.m. to midnight, we have Afterglow. On the Afterglow net, we talk about a movie that we saw. And this week, let me get my notes. Sorry about that. The movie is The Big Empty. It's a 2003 movie with a few big names in it. Daryl Hannah, Kelsey Grammer, and some other people. And that movie we'll be talking about at 10:30 p.m. this evening, right here on this repeater. Tom, you want to give us a careful synopsis of this movie? K5ICX. This is N5BB and Skynet.
Yeah, I'll be happy to, Bill. This is Tom, K5ICX. Listen carefully because this is really important. Bud Court, Daryl Hannah, Adam Beach, and Kelsey Grammer all sat in the waiting room. Each of them had been promised a role in a new movie directed by Steve Anderson, a guy well known for producing PBS documentaries. They knew they could score a career restart along with a free PBS tote bag for their troubles. Anderson could be heard yelling on the phone in the adjoining closed-door office. I don't care how much you give Ken Burns for his latest documentary on the history of tiddlywinks. I've got a hot movie for the nerd crowd. Imagine getting a PBS tote bag with a human head in it. What's that worth to you? Plus, I'm adding an evil alien astronaut angle inserted awkwardly into the plot. The actors all slid their newly acquired tote bags under the receptionist table and collectively headed for the exits. Anderson flung the office door open and blocked the only exit from the office. He yelled at the actors, "Grab your tote bags, we're going on location." Join us for The Big Empty from 2003 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Bizarre doesn't begin to describe this film, and there is a live link to it if you want to kind of watch it on the side, on the W5FC website. Free, folks, Tubi TV. Back to you, Bill, KE5, ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And I'll just give you a warning. If you have a reaction to blue suitcases, you may not want to watch this film. Blue suitcases. You'll see them in this film. It's the only film I've ever seen with blue suitcases. Plural. Okay, other nets. On Sunday evening, there is the first and third Sundays of the month, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a meeting on the internet at 7 p.m. You can come in and describe what you've been doing. Everybody talks about what they've been doing recently, mostly amateur radio related. And then also on the first and third Sundays at 8 p.m., there is a Races training net. So things going on tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. on this repeater, W5FC 146.88 megahertz. More nets. Every evening at 6:30 p.m. there is the National Traffic System Training Net. People move formal message traffic. These are radiograms. The only day of the month that we skip it is on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, because that's when the Dallas Amateur Radio Club is meeting. And on that day, this coming Tuesday, that will meet on the Irving repeater. At 9:30 p.m. each evening, the late session of this net meets on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater at 9:30 p.m. Anybody's welcome on these nets, but please listen and only check in at the proper time. On the Races Trading Net, you must be a Races member to check in by law. Okay, that's all the items I have now as far as announcements. Do we have any additional check-ins or any additional comments about announcements? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet in progress.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Very good. I recognize Ted, WB4MFI. And looking at Echolink, Jeff, KI5SDS. Jeff, would you like to check in on voice? Nothing heard. We got to check in, even so, Jeff. Okay. So, next, it's now time for Chaz to talk to us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. KF5JHA, this is N5BB. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Bill. This is KF5JHA, Chaz. On August the 28th is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom component for members. The featured speaker, not sure who that's going to be. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas also hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. There's Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Public Observing Station. On the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Please come down with your call sign. I know we have several different hams up there that are doing observing, so you're probably looking at all sorts of things like Venus and the bright objects in the western evening sky. All right, check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about our meetings and public observing stations. This is KF5, JHA, back to N5BB.
Very good, Chess. Do we have any comments, questions, or additional check-ins? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Okay, now, next, unfortunately, you're going to listen to me talk for a while. First, I'll be talking about the National Space Society. This is N5BB. I happen to be the Vice President and Membership Director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. The group has an also active Facebook page, National Space Society of North Texas, if you search. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets every month on the second Saturday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. This is across the highway from Irving Mall. The August meeting will be on Sunday afternoon, August 9th. That's a week after tomorrow. And the topic will be the NASA Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter mission. And it'll be my remote presentation by NASA Goddard Space Flight Center scientist, Dr. Caitlin Ahrens, A-H-R-E-N-S. So yes, that's the same Lunar Reconnaissance mission orbiter that I mentioned that is going around the moon and that hopefully will be able to take pictures after the fact and show what debris was left over after the Falcon 9 rocket upper stage hits it on Wednesday morning. On the last Friday afternoon of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. 10 people came to the July event last night. Hopefully on the YouTube presentation, you can see the photo of 9 of the 10 people that were there. There's one person that left before we remembered to take the photo. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference, abbreviated ISDC. ISDC 2026 occurred in early June in Virginia, near Washington, D.C., and I and some other people from our chapter were there. Next year, ISDC 2027 will be held in Los Angeles, California, near the LAX airport from May the 27th to 30th, 2027. If you have any questions about any of these events or the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at my QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. Okay, let's take a break. Do we have any questions, comments, or additional check-ins? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Okay, I don't see anybody new on the web form or on Echolink. So now we come to the discussion topic of this evening, and I'm going to talk about the Link. That's the name of it, L-I-N-K. It's a satellite mission to save the Swift Gamma Ray Space Observatory. And this particular mission is in jeopardy. And hold on while I bring up the text here. Hang on. There it is. I've got too many windows open. Okay. So this is I'm reading from ARS Technica website, Ars Technica, and they had the best article on this I could find with the latest information. Here we go. Here's how engineers plan to save the satellite sent to save NASA's Swift Space Telescope. 1 week ago, more than 200 miles above the Earth, a refrigerator-sized space probe making its way toward an attempted rescue of NASA's $500 million Swift Gamma Ray Observatory suddenly spun out of control. It didn't look good. The spacecraft named Link, that's L-I-N-K, was rotating on multiple axes, rendering it unable to maintain a reliable communications link with the ground, and complicating efforts to arrest the spin. Two of the satellite's three reaction wheels, these are like gyroscopes, and they're used for pointing, for changing the attitude of the spacecraft. So two of the three ones also stopped working. Through sporadic radio contact, engineers discovered a problem with some of the spacecraft's cold gas thrusters used for finer attitude control. The Link satellite is built, owned, and operated by Catalyst, that's with a K, Catalyst Space Technologies, a satellite servicing startup that won a $30 million contract from NASA to fly up to the Swift Observatory, grab onto it, and boost its orbit before the Swift telescope succumbs to atmospheric drag, aerodynamic drag, and burns up in the atmosphere. The clock is ticking. In a few months, Swift will be too low for Catalyst to complete the rescue. This is the first time NASA has contracted with a commercial company to service one of its satellites. By the way, as you may remember, the space shuttle serviced the Hubble Space Telescope to save it many years ago. But this is the first time a private company has tried to do this, unmanned. The Link satellite, the space agency gave Catalyst less than a year to put the mission together. The Link satellite launched July the 3rd to begin the pursuit of Swift, and the mission proceeded mostly according to plan until last Saturday. This is N5BB. This is Skynet. So, So when this happened, it was during one of the passes without communications, said Gohan Lee, the CEO of Catalyst, in an interview with ARS. We were immediately, before this, in a very stable configuration. The Catalyst ground team, working from a control center near Denver, hurried to find, fix, and recover the Link satellite. The good news was the spacecraft's other systems remained healthy, including its power supply, 3 xenon-fueled electric thrusters, and the rendezvous and robotics hardware the Link satellite needs to capture the swift space telescope. This is in 5dB. ARS, that's ARS Technica, spoke with Lee, Catalyst chief executive, on Friday afternoon as the company's ground team, by the way, this article is published today, so this is new information. So they spoke with him on Friday afternoon as the company's ground team worked to stabilize the spacecraft. The first step involves using the satellite's plasma engines to gradually slow the spin. The engines are primarily designed for orbit raising, but they're also suitable for attitude control because they can vector their thrust with a 2-axis gimbal. Link's electric propulsion system is efficient. This is the plasma engines, plasma electric. It's efficient, but low in thrust, meaning it takes time to generate enough of an impulse to regain full control of the satellite's pointing. We've been able to use the thrusters to point in the opposite direction of the rotation rate and affect the attitude control that way, which has been highly effective, Lee said. This has worked well so far. As of Friday, the spacecraft had cut its spin rate in half, from about 9 degrees per second to approximately 4 degrees per second. So if you think about it, 4 degrees per second would be 90 seconds per rotation. So it was originally 45 seconds per rotation, and now, and Friday it was 90 seconds. So they've been doing good. Officials hope to further reduce the spin rate, allowing Catalyst to improve communications with the spacecraft. Once we are in a more stable configuration with much more high bandwidth communications, we'll be able to use that to download all the rich data about the condition of the spacecraft, Lee said. We do know the state of the reaction wheels and the thrusters and things like that. So our guidance, navigation, and control team has been very hard at work with NASA, essentially remapping all the control algorithms to be able to have an updated controller ready to go for when we're able to stabilize the spacecraft. Catalyst may eventually be able to recover the satellite's 2 inoperable reaction wheels, but the team's priority is restoring control by uplinking a new algorithm to manage its orientation through a combination of its 1 remaining reaction wheel and thrusters. This is in 5dB. This is Skynet. Engineers aren't sure yet what caused the emergency with the Link spacecraft last weekend. It could have been an internal problem with the satellite or a collision with space junk. Lee said 2 cameras in the satellite will look for signs of damage after the ground team stabilized the satellite. Whatever the cause, Catalyst Mission Control Team lost contact with Link for more than 24 hours after it spun out of control. The satellite then automatically reset itself, just as it was supposed to do. This was built-in fault protection logic saying, hey, if I haven't heard from anybody in 24 hours, there must be something wrong. I'm going to toggle the power, turn it off and back on again. It's just built in. However, that shutdown mode is ungraceful. It basically pulls the plug on everything, and that creates some downstream effects for sensitive systems, such as the reaction wheels. basically there was a big thermal spike that came about as the reaction of this that over-temperatured the upstream electronic circuits that controlled the reaction wheels, which ultimately led them to being inoperable. The problem with the spacecraft cold gas thrusters seems to be a separate issue, but engineers don't have the data in hand to make a final determination. These things all happened at once, so it's hard to delineate between what contributed to creating the situation and what was the consequence of the situation. And that's something we'll have to investigate with all the data, Lee said. Nevertheless, Lee said Catalyst still aims to move Link towards NASA's Swift Observatory, perhaps around the end of August. We're very committed to pursuing this mission, Lee said. We're working side by side with NASA. I just came from a technical working meeting with their controls team. The algorithms, it seems like there's nothing that is preventing us from reestablishing three-axis control of the spacecraft with the remaining reaction wheel, with the remaining thrusters, as well as the electric propulsion. It's not the original mode that we expected to control the spacecraft with, but it seems like we'll have sufficient stability and controllability of the spacecraft. With this, we believe we'll be able to do the rendezvous with Swift. We'll believe that we'll be able to go and do things like the inspection of the Swift Gamma Ray Observatory within a close approach of a few dozen meters. As it stands right now, we have not made a formal assessment. We believe that a capture of Swift, an attempted capture of Swift, is very much in the cards. So this is, in fact, BB, and I am in control for Skynet. And just a few more comments about me. So, reaction control wheels are like gyroscopes. It's a spinning wheel with an electric motor on it. And so, if you want to make the satellite rotate along a certain axis, you take one of these reaction control wheels and the electric motor speeds it up or slows it down. And every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. So you add momentum to the reaction wheel with the electric motor, and the spacecraft goes the other direction. So this is how you can rotate the spacecraft in three axes with these three reaction control wheels. But if something happens and they get spinning too rapidly, things are out of control. And usually the only way to control this is you slow them down with the electric motor, but you've got to fire a rocket at the same time, a thruster, so it combats the motion, so the spacecraft doesn't rotate in some weird way. Anyway, they're trying to get this in control. This is the first time they tried to do something like this, send a spacecraft to latch onto another spacecraft, which wasn't attached. The original observatory was never designed for this to happen. Instead, there's been some solar storms that have expanded the Earth's atmosphere so much has caused additional drag. And that's the reason that Swift is coming down faster than they thought it would be. It's a gamma ray observatory, and its results, the data is collected, has been very, very useful. That's all I got about that topic. Do we have any other check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. I see one more check-in. Dale, N5LIG in Little Elm. Hello, Dale. Thank you for checking in to Skynet. Okay, next we have another section of the net. Was up. Hey, Chaz. What happens if we go outside and look up? KF5JHA. This is N5BB. Take it away.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have rain coming down our face, but we have mostly clear skies tonight, so there's a lot of things you can see tonight. Slide Master, slide number 2. Our slide master is Tom. He's running the slides over on the YouTube version. That's the video version of Skynet. So I'm talking about slide numbers. If you want to go to see that, just go to the links that are located on W5FC, and you can get to the video version of Skynet. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up, because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and maybe beyond. Slide master, slide number 3. I've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Coronaborealis, which could erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of 10th magnitude. I just checked it a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Coronaborealis was supposed to go nova about 2 years ago. Now, one recent prediction was for T Coronaborealis to go nova around June the 25th. Checking my calendar. Oh, that didn't happen, did it? But when it does go nova, T Coronaborealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light blue location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide master, slide number 4. This image of the sun was taken on July the 29th from the website spaceweather.com. Probably came from the Solar Dynamic Observatory, SDO. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, the sun has just passed its 11-year solar maximum. We believe that was October of 2024. I presented information on the solar cycle about 6 months ago in Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5. Full moon was just a couple days ago on July the 29th. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Third quarter moon is on August the 5th. On August the 10th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. It is of 363,284 kilometers. New moon is on August the 12th. First quarter moon is on August the 19th. August the 22nd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. It is just 404,642 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 6. Well, just a couple of nights ago, on July 29th, 30th, there was a peak of not 1, not 2, but 3 different meteor showers. If you include the Perseid meteor shower that's coming up, that's 4 meteor showers you can see meteors from. Alpha Capricornus meteor shower could produce around 5 meteors per hour. It's predicted to be at storm levels sometime in the future. The Southern Delta Aquariid meteor shower could produce, well, around 16 meteors per hour. July Gamma Draconis meteor shower could produce between 10 to over 100 meteors per hour. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the report to see what it was. Usually the best time to observe meteors is the hour before dawn, because that's the side of the Earth that is running into the debris left behind by a comet or asteroid. If you want to get more information about meteors or meteor showers, you can check the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide master, slide number 7. On August the 2nd, that's tomorrow, there's a conjunction of the moon and the planet Neptune in the morning eastern sky. Now, Neptune's too faint to see with your 2 eyes. Can't probably use a pair of binoculars. You're going to use a telescope to see Neptune. Slide master, slide number 8. On August the 3rd, there's a conjunction of the moon, the planet Saturn, and Neptune's not too far away in the eastern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 9. On August the 4th, there's a conjunction of Mars, the asteroid Ceres, and M1, the Crab Nebula, in the eastern morning sky. Could be interesting to see. Crab Nebula, you'll need a telescope to see. If you're in really dark skies with a big pair of binoculars, you might see M1. Slide Master, slide number 10. On August the 7th, there's conjunction of the Moon, the planet Uranus, and M45, the Pleiades, in the eastern morning sky. Now, Uranus, you'll need at least a pair of binoculars, if not a telescope to see. M45, you can see with your two eyes inside the city, but a pair of binoculars will help you out seeing it really well. Slide Master, slide number 11. On August the 9th, there's conjunction of the Moon, the planet Mars, Sirius, and M1. I think I just said that, sorry. Slide Master, slide number 12. On August I lost my place in the script. On August the 10th, there's conjunction of the Moon and the star Pollux in the northeastern morning sky. Pollux is one of the two bright stars in the constellation of Gemini. Slide Master, slide number 13. On August 11th, there's conjunction of the Moon and the planet Mercury in the northeastern morning sky. It will be twilight, so using a pair of binoculars, you should be able to see the thin crescent moon and Mercury close together. Slide Master, slide number 14. Now, I've already mentioned it, but on the night of August the 11th and 12th, it's the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. It's one of the most famous meteor showers because it happens during the northern hemisphere summer, and it's easy to see with just your two eyes if you're away from the city lights. It could produce over 100 meteors per hour. Now, remember, usually the best time to observe meteors is the hour before dawn, because that's the side of the Earth that's running into the debris left behind by a comet or an asteroid. If you want to get more information, once again, you can go to the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 15. There's an eclipse of the Moon going into the Earth's shadow on August the 27th and 28th. If we get closer to that, I'll give you more details. But it's going to be really great. It starts in the evening and goes a little bit past midnight. 93% of the Moon will go into the Earth's shadow. So it should be the darker part of the Earth's shadow, which should be almost like a total lunar eclipse, but not quite. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 16. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have an astronomy question. My degree's in astrophysics. I might be able to answer your question. Or maybe someone else here on the Skynet might be able to do so. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, slide number 17 says the Moon wanes currently. So do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, prayer for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, which is transmitting on the W5FC repeater in Dallas, Texas on 146.88 megahertz. I guess we're also linked to other repeaters too. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. Now back to our net control in 5dB.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is Skynet, and this is in 5dB net control.
November 0, Mike Delta, the comment.
And 0, MD. Hello, Ed. Go right ahead.
This is going to be a particularly wonderful Perseid meteor shower this year as it coincides with the new moon. We're planning on heading out towards Big Bend National Park and the Davis Mountains area to enjoy not only the star party with McDonald Observatory, but the great meteor shower. Back to net control.
Thank you, Ed. Do we have any other comments or questions or check-ins? If so, please come down. Okay, this is Skynet, and next we have space exploration and space history. Gus, W5GUS, this is N5BB. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Bill. W5GUS here. Let's start with space exploration news. Last Sunday, NASA astronaut Chris Williams and 2 Russian cosmonauts landed safely in the Kazakhstan steppes after a 241-day mission aboard the International Space Station. So welcome home, fellas. Okay, let's see. July 29th, NASA announced that the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is tracking for an August 30th launch on a Falcon Heavy rocket from Kennedy Space Center, which is 9 months ahead of schedule. That launch date of July 29th. Launch preparations are keeping Roman well ahead of schedule. The mission has a formal launch readiness date of May 2027, but project officials said this spring that careful planning as well as adherence to a cost cap allowed the mission to get well ahead of its original projected readiness timeline. And the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is NASA's next flagship infrared space observatory. It features a field of view that's 100 times larger than the Hubble Space Telescope, and will be used also to investigate dark energy, exoplanets, and large-scale structure of our universe. It was named in honor of Dr. Nancy Grace Roman, born in 1925, died about 8 years ago, NASA's first chief astronomer, and widely celebrated as the mother of the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay, on July 30th, SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket successfully launched a classified national security payload for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office from Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, and landing the first stage booster back at Landing Zone 1, wherever that is. And the last item in this category, the Federal Communications Commission adopted a landmark reform of its Space Bureau licensing process, replacing the Legacy Part 25 framework of the rules with a streamlined Part 100 structure to foster commercial satellite development. All right, we'll move on to space-related birthdays. July 26, 1951, William S. MacArthur was born, retired U.S. Army colonel, NASA astronaut who flew on 3 space shuttle missions and commanded Expedition 12 on the ISS. He was a ham, KC-5ACR. Okay, Okay, July 27, 1946, Tokhtar Abakarov was born. He was the first person from Kazakhstan to fly in space, spending over 7 days aboard the Soviet Mir space station. Okay, July 27, 1961, Daniel Burbank was born. He was a ham, K-1 DCB, veteran of 2 space shuttle missions and commander of Expedition 30 on the ISS. Also born on July 27th, but about 11 years later, Sheikh Muzaffar Shukr was born. He became the first Malaysian in space, flying to ISS aboard Soyuz TM-11, part of an agreement with Russia. Also born July 27th, that same year, 1972, as Shiki Adiev Ambitrov was born. Third cosmonaut to fly in space, spending nearly 10 days in orbit on a short duration ISS mission. Okay, July 28th, 1961, Scott Perezinski was born, veteran of 5 shuttle flights who performed 7 spacewalks, including a dramatic solar array repair during STS-120. July 30th, 1953, Alexander Balandin was born, Soviet cosmonaut who spent 179 days aboard the Mir space station during Expedition 6. Okay, July 30th, 1954, Gregory Johnson was born. He piloted Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-125, the final Hubble Space Telescope servicing mission. Okay, July 30th, 1962, Vladimir Dezhirov was born, Russian cosmonaut who commanded Mir EO-18 and flew to the ISS on STS-105-108 as part of Expedition 3. Okay, August 1st, Yuri Romanenko was born in 1944. He was a legendary Soviet cosmonaut who commanded long-duration missions to Salyut 6 and Mir. Happy birthday, Yuri. Also born August 1st, Richard Covey. 1946, Richard Covey was born. Piloted the post-Challenger return-to-flight mission, STS-26, and commanded the historic Hubble servicing mission, which was STS-61. Also August 1st, but 1963, Kiyoshi Wakata was born, first Japanese commander of the ISS, veteran of 5 space missions. He was a ham, KC-5ZTA. And that was the last birthday of this current period. So we'll move to This Week in Space History. On July 28, 1973, NASA launched the Skylab 3 mission aboard a Saturn 1B rocket carrying astronauts Alan Bean, Owen Garriott, and Jack Lausma to the Skylab space station. The The crew spent 59 days in orbit, nearly doubling the previous space endurance record. During their mission, they conducted extensive scientific experiments in solar astronomy, Earth's resources, and materials processing, and successfully performed 3 spacewalks to install a sun shield and retrieve data. On July 28, 1958, the U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act into law, officially creating the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. Drafted in response to the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1 the previous year, the act established a civilian agency to lead non-military space exploration and aeronautics research. Okay, July 30th, 1971, the Apollo 15 lunar module Falcon, carrying astronauts David Scott and James Irwin, successfully landed in the Hadley Alpine region of the Moon. This landing site, nestled between high lunar mountains and the winding Halley Rill Gorge, was the most geologically complex site visited to date. While Alfred Worden orbited above in the command module, Scott and Irwin prepared to conduct the first ever drives on the Moon using the Lunar Roving Vehicle, opening a new era of mobile lunar surface exploration. That was July 30th, 1971. Okay, July 31st, 1964, NASA's Ranger 7 robotic space probe successfully impacted the Moon, concluding the first fully successful mission of the Ranger program. During the final 17 minutes of its descent, Ranger 7 transmitted 4,308 high-resolution close-up photos of the lunar surface. These images, which were up to 1,000 times clearer than any taken by Earth-based telescopes, provided crucial geological data that helped scientists confirm that the lunar soil was stable enough to support the weight of the Apollo lunar module. Okay, and on the last item on this segment, August 1st, 1968, NASA officially directed the cancellation of further production of the Saturn V rocket, capping the fleet of massive moon launchers at 15 vehicles. Driven by tightening federal budgets and the shifting priorities of the post-Apollo space program, the decision meant that no Saturn V rockets would be built beyond those already under contract. While this decision effectively limited the number of planned Apollo lunar landing missions, the remaining Saturn V rockets successfully carried out the Apollo lunar program and ultimately launched the Skylab space station into orbit. And with that, we will look forward to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week with Chad, and pass the torch back to Bill. Back to you, Bill, W5GUS.
Thank you very much, Gus. This is Skynet, sponsored with the Dallas Siemens Radio Club. And this is Net Control, N5DB. Do we have any other check-ins, comments, or questions? If so, please come now with your call sign only. Nothing heard, and I don't see any other check-ins electronically. So next, let's go to Chaz again. Chaz, tell us about Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. K5JHA, this is N5BB. Take it away.
Spelled just so that people don't get confused. My last name is not again. This is Chaz again. Oh, wait. Oh, well. Slide master, slide number 18. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. That's right. That's when Skynet started. We've been doing this. We're on our 16th year. Until May of 2019 is when she contributed, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Ophiuchus, the snake handler. Or in Texas, we might call it the snake wrangler. Yep. Ophiuchus is the serpent spear. More familiar terms, like I said, in Texas, we'll probably call it the snake wrangler. There's no classical mythology hero with the name of Ophiuchus. The constellation is believed to represent the ancient Greek physician, the universal symbol for medicine. You know, with two snakes intertwining themselves? The snakes are represented by the constellation of the serpent. We covered constellation of serpents last week, so it's only appropriate to cover the snake handler this week. Ophiuchus is sometimes called the 13th constellation of the zodiac. Yes, there are 13 constellations in the zodiac because it lies along the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path where the planets, the sun, and the moon travel in the sky. In fact, the portion of the ecliptic that lies in Ophiuchus is longer than the part that is in the neighboring Scorpio. You just learned something new. 13 constellations in the zodiac. Slide master, slide number 19. All right, this is the jokes of the week. So if you're on Echolink or if you're on the YouTube version, there's chat boxes. You can sit there and comment about the jokes. You can boo and hiss, but I don't think you'll hear them if you're on radio. Just don't throw things at your radio if you don't like them. The jokes are there. What's the best unit of measurement of snakes? 12 inches, of course, because they don't have any feet. Oh, by the way, the constellation of the week is where we get those jokes for. Yep. What do you call the magic snake? A magic snake? An adder-cadabra. You know, adders are snakes, you know. What do you call a snake that works for the government? A civil servant. Oh, civil serpent. There you go. What do you give a snake? What do you give a sick snake? An aspirin. You know, there's aspirin. Who is a snake's favorite author? William Shakespeare. What is a snake's favorite TV show? Oh, this is easy. Come on. Monty Python. And yes, there's a bonus question. Here we go. Usually I do 6. Sometimes there's fewer than that, but tonight is the 7th one. Why was the snake handler mad at the jewelry thief? Because he wanted his diamond back. Slide master, slide number 20, please. The famous Barnard star is a real dwarf star that is about 6 light years away, making it the second closest star system to our solar system. Only the Alpha Centaur trinary system is closer. Barnard star is famous for the having the largest known proper motion of all the stars in the sky as seen from the Earth. It's a faint 9th magnitude star, which requires a finder chart and a telescope to locate. You can see it by using an 8-inch telescope and a finder chart in Burnham's Celestial Handbook. Barnard's star was discovered by Edward Emerson Barnard in 1916. 5 Masters, slide number 21. Messier object number 9, M9, is a globular star cluster that is easily seen with binoculars or a telescope. Using an 8-inch telescope, you can start to resolve the individual stars in the cluster. The cluster looks like, a gem compared to other globular clusters in Ophiuchus. 5 Masters, slide number 22. Another Messier object, M10, is a brighter and much easier globular cluster to see than M19. At 41 power, you can start to resolve some individual stars. At 85 power, it shows more stars, and at 126 power, it shows even more stars. If you haven't figured it out, there's a bunch of globular clusters in Ophiuchus. Slide Master, slide number 23. Messier object number 12. Very similar to globular cluster M10. It starts to resolve at low power, and the view is improved at much higher power. Much less dense than the globular clusters listed that I'm going to cover tonight. Slide Master, slide number 24. Messier object number 14 is similar to M9 in brightness, and is mostly unresolvable with an 8-inch telescope. 126 power. A few individual stars pop out, but overall, the cluster is really most unimpressive. It might be easily seen in a pair of binoculars, though, or a finder scope. Slide Master, slide number 25. An interesting object. Rho Ophiuchus is actually a star, but it's also Rho Ophiuchus is a nebula complex. Rho Ophiuchus itself is a triple star system, and the two brightest components are fairly easy to split in a telescope. The two brightest stars in the system are noticeably split at 84 power and clearly easily split at 125 power in a telescope. The nebula complex is best seen in fast focal ratio telescopes. At 41 power, only a slight dimming of the sky surrounding is visible around Rho and some of the other nearby stars that resolve the surrounding nebula complex. The Emission Nebula is nearby Antares in Scorpius, and is noticeable and is nearly very close to the globular cluster M4 in Scorpius, but adds some spice to the interesting region. It's a great target for astrophotographers, as shown in the video version of Skynet from Jason Ware's image that you'll see. Slide Master, slide number 26. This is KF5, JHA, this is Skynet. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Ophiuchus, the Snake Wrangler. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, I just found this out a week or so ago, 177 different observing programs. Some are counted multiple times because, well, they have different levels. Most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 27. And that is Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Ophiuchus, the Snake Wrangler. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Farwell for the research and work on deep sky objects that I've used and borrowed and stolen from them for every Skynet. I also use at times the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week I'll take a look at a mythological creature, Draco the Dragon. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night in 73. Back to our net control, M5BB, Bill at Julie.
Thank you very much, Chaz. This is Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins? Okay. Tom, K5ICX, this is N5BD. How about telling us about space launches of the week, etc.?
All right, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX, and here we go from Spaceflight Now launch schedule. You can get this information yourself from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. The next Falcon 9 Starlink 1753 is August 4th. This will be from SLC-4 Echo at Vandenberg. Falcon 9 rocket will launch at 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. First stage booster will return for the 34th time and is scheduled to land on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, in the Pacific Ocean. August 5th, Falcon 9 will launch a Bluebird 11-13, it's called, from SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral. This Falcon 9 rocket will launch 3 Block 2 satellites for AST Space Mobile's in-orbit cellular service. That would be satellites 11, 12, and 13, hence the 11-13. Each Bluebird satellite has a communications array measuring about 2,400 square feet, pretty big. Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. August 6th, 7th will be the launch of QZS-7. This is from JST on August 7th from Yushin Obu Launch Complex, JAXA Takashima Space Center, an H-3 launch vehicle, and a rocket developed through the partnership between Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and JAXA will launch the Mitsubishi number 7 Quasi-Zenith Satellite System, or QZS-7. This will be the 9th launch of the H-3 rocket. We have on August 8th, Falcon 9 Starlink 17-38. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg. Launch another batch of 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. The first stage booster, launching for the 16th time, is scheduled to return to the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We have to be determined on a launch time, August 10th, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-19. Here we go again. This one from Cape Canaveral. This will be another batch of 29 Starlink V2 satellites into low Earth orbit. First stage booster will be launching for the 18th time, scheduled to land on the drone ship A Shortfall of Gravitas. August 12th, Falcon 9 Starlink 17-49. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg. Another batch of 24 V2 mini satellites. First stage booster will be launching for the 18th time, is scheduled to land on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You. Finally, something different. August 27th, the Ariane 6 flying the MTGI-2. This is the Ariane 62 rocket with the 2-booster variant of the Ariane 6 launcher. Will launch the second Meteosat third-generation imager satellite, or MTGI-2, to geostationary transfer orbit. The mission is a partnership between the European Space Agency and EUMETSAT. This will be the 4th Ariane 6 rocket launch of the year and the 9th to date. August 30th will be the Falcon Heavy. You heard this earlier. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope will launch at 7:26 a.m. from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. The Falcon Heavy rocket will launch NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, the agency's next great observatory. Roman carries aboard 2 main instruments, the 300 megapixel infrared camera called the Wide Field Instrument, and a chronograph. It will carry out a minimum 5-year mission, capture detailed images of the universe at a dramatically faster rate than the Hubble, even with a primary mirror that's the same size as Hubble. And that's it. That's what I've got on that. The next section, I don't have anything for you. This is from heavensabove.com. These would be flyovers. I am not sure. All of the information came up as basically empty, both for the ISS and the TN gone space. The format is slightly different, so I'm not sure if there's a problem with the website or not. So I'm going to recommend anybody who's interested, if you want to see what passes are, you may want to check it tomorrow morning and see if the website has corrected itself. But I have no visible passes to report tonight for Tiangong or for ISS. So back to you, Bill. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Right on time. Okay, this is N5BB. This is Skynet. Do we have any additional comments or check-ins before we close the net? Tonight we had about 25 hams participating on the air, on the net. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this
I'm
net,
completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Yeah, he says he's functioning perfectly, but we know the truth. We're always looking for net control stations for this net and all the other Dallas Image Radio Club nets. If you're interested, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can find topics about these things on the possibly evil Facebook and possibly more evil X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources. By going to w5fc.org at the conclusions of this net, if you dare. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, closing a net at 9:30 p.m. local time. Returning repeater to semi-normal amateur radio use. 73s, everybody, and enjoy the evenings covering the universe ad astra. And over to you, Tom. Are we going to do this Afterglow thing? K5ICX. This is N5BB.
The Afterglow Movie Net. We'll be talking about The Big Empty, a movie from 2003. You wonder if it's science fiction, but at the end, it definitely is. So come on back. 5 minutes. That's enough time to make some microwave popcorn. Come back to the radio. Even if you haven't seen the movie, listen in. We'll tell you all about it. This is KE5ICX. We'll be back in 5. Okay, well, it is now time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is called The Big Empty from 2003. It has a number of well-known stars in it, though the movie itself is probably unknown. Let me tell you a little bit about the movie. The Big Empty is a 2003 comedy film, I guess, directed and written by Steve Anderson. It stars Jon Favreau as a struggling actor with a bizarre request from his neighbor to deliver a suitcase that he cannot open. While there, he meets an unusual cast of characters and starts to think this delivery might be more than it seems. The Big Empty was all shot on location in Los Angeles and Baker, California, with a real town in Southern California where most of the story takes place. Many of its locations are real, including the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, which figures prominently in the movie. Very much one of those roadside motels. Several landmarks in Baker are also known, including the world's tallest thermometer. The Alto Nido apartments where John Person is living are the same ones where William Holden lived in the beginning of Sunset Boulevard. I thought I had noticed that. Sunset Boulevard is one of my favorite movies. All the bowling scenes were filmed at the famous Hollywood Star Lanes in Hollywood, which has since been demolished. Seductive easiness, which may not be for everyone, but it works. A laid-back yet ever so slightly portentous score and a wonderful sense of place. Chuck Wilson of the LA Weekly wrote, "More amiable than a laugh-out-loud comedy, the film pokes along, buoyed by the motel's bright Hawaiian color scheme and the moonlit desert finale that's awfully pretty." Robert Kohler of Variety wrote, "Hobbled by uninspired stabs at cleverness and surreal narrative curlicues, The Big Empty goes nowhere, replete with a question mark at the ending that isn't worth answering." I don't think Robert liked it. All right, let me go through a little bit about what the plot is. John Pearson's a struggling actor in Los Angeles who has $27,000 in debt. His neighbor Neely offers him $27,000 to take a gun and deliver a blue suitcase to Cowboy in Baker. Arriving in Baker at his hotel, Pearson just misses Cowboy. At the bar, he is immediately held at gunpoint by Randy, who thinks Pearson is after his girlfriend Ruthie. She comes to Pearson's returning his dropped wallet. In the diner the next day, Pearson meets Dan, who tells many strange tales and conspiracy theories about the desert. He meets Ruthie outside a gas station. They drive to Devil's Crest Lake bed outside town. As they get drunk, he hears stories about disappearing people. Person drives Ruthie home when she gets sick and passes out. At the hotel, Person again misses Cowboy, who left him a bowling ball bag that he's not allowed to open. Person's friend Gracie calls him. Neely was beheaded, and FBI agent Banks is looking for him, fearing Neely's head is in the bag. Person buries it. Later, Randy threatens to kill him if he tells Ruthie again. Stella, the bar owner, reveals she rescued Ruthie as a toddler from Devil's Crest. At the bar, Banks tries to link Person to Neely's murder and 75 mysterious disappearances from Baker. This is KE5ICX. Person sees Randy has stolen his suitcase. He drives to the junkyard with his gun, finding Randy has tied up Ruthie during an armed standoff. Person convinces Randy to let Ruthie and him go by threatening to shoot her. Later, Ruthie comes to Person's room to tell him Randy was arrested, and they had sex. Randy then kidnaps Person, but before Randy can shoot him, Cowboy shoots Randy. Going back to the motel, Person finds suitcases stacked in his room. Cowboy takes Grace hostage, tells him to drive them to the Devil's Crest lake bed. Person goes to Devil's Crest and meets Bob, the Indian, who tells him where and how to arrange the suitcases before leaving. Cowboy arrives with a group of blue tracksuits similar to Neely's, including Ruthie. Cowboy pulls out a pair of size 11 bowling shoes from the bag and offers them to Person as a chance to join him in paradise. Refusing, Cowboy gives them to Ruthie. She excitedly invites Person, but he declines. Cowboy shoots a flare and insists he's simply a cowboy, even as his skin turns blue and translucent. As the flare explodes, Person blacks out, and he awakes alone on the dry lake bed. All the suitcases are empty except for the locked one, which he takes. At the highway, he meets Gracie, who says he's been missing for 3 days and gives his key from Cowboy. He finds his $28,000 in the case. Back in Los Angeles, Banks interrogates Person. Unable to tell the truth to the families of those disappeared, Banks invents a story. Person sees a Band-Aid on Banks' neck, similar to the one that appeared on his own neck after Devil's Crest, relating to one of Dan's conspiracy theories. As Person and Grace go on a date at the bowling alley, she congratulates him for getting a supporting role in the film. She quotes Cowboy with bright blue eyes. Person, wearing size 11 shoes, rolls a ball down the alley. His eyes turn bright blue, too. The bowling ball rolls across the vast moonlit Devil's Crest. Far in the distance, white flames, like a cowboy's flare, rise from the desert floor. The end. And you're going to have to figure out what that meant. So there you have it. That was the movie, The Big Empty, from 2003, an unusual film. I'd never seen it before or heard of it. So it has sort of a science fiction-y ending, similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So this is what we do on this net, if you're listening, possibly on the other repeater there up in Fort Worth or near Fort Worth. We talk about the movie plot. Well, first we check in and say if we saw a movie or not. You don't necessarily have to have seen the movie. It helps, but if you didn't, that's okay. We'll ask you questions about whether you want to see this movie or something it reminds you of or something that you think would be a good choice for the Afterglow movie net. So you can check in even if you haven't seen the movie. So we'll ask for your call sign, your name, did you see the movie? The first round, we'll talk about the plot. We'll go down the list of check-ins. The second round, we'll talk about the characterization and acting. And then the third round, we'll talk about any of the special effects or things you may have missed on the first two rounds that you want to talk about. These are usually very interesting. Sometimes a terrible movie ends up getting a thumbs up after everybody discusses the plot and all the other things about the film, realizing that maybe it wasn't so bad after all. We don't know if this is going to be one of those. We will find out. So we'll go ahead and get started. I will take your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, The Big Empty from 2003? Here we go.
This is in 5BB. Yes, I saw this movie.
This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I mostly goofed off tonight, but I did see this movie.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot. This is Virginia in Fort Worth, and I did see The Big Lebowski meets Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay. This is N5SQA, Ron. I did not see any movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this movie.
This is Whiskey 5 Echo Bravo Bravo. David in Springtown. Yes, I saw the movie for the first time.
All right, we'll start at the top. We've got N5BB, Bill. I think he's nerving. He said, yep, he saw the film. NT5TM, Tony, the goof off in Dallas. Yes, he saw the movie. NV5F, Virginia, over in Fort Worth. The Big Lebowski meets Close Encounters. Yes, she saw the movie. N5SQA, Ron, he's just in for the check-in, but we'll ask him if he's around what he thinks about this fine movie and would he watch it. KB9SOK, Sean, Fort Worth, yep, he saw the film. W5EVP, David, over on Echolink in Springtown, yes, he saw the film. I'll take additional check-ins. You want to join us? Tonight's movie, The Big Empty from 2003. I'm going to have to look up bacon, lettuce, and tomato Bill, find out where he's at. I haven't had him the last couple of weeks. That's unusual. Okay, well, we'll have plenty of time to get other check-ins, so we'll go ahead and start at the top. We will talk about the plot. We'll go down in the list that you all checked in so we'll start with Bill, N5BB. What did you think of the plot, Bill, from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, in general, I like this movie, and most of the plot seemed to be halfway okay, although confusing, and I was okay with the confusion, except I thought that a little bit more would be revealed at the end of the movie. But it wasn't, at least not to my eyes. There were a couple of things I think that were hints. There were at least two characters, Neely and whatever the guy's name was that ran the hotel, that had these weird necklaces on. And something about that, they seemed to be facilitating what was going on in some way. And something about that is probably a hint, but I didn't understand the hint. So I'm guessing that both of them were kind of in cahoots with Cowboy. I don't understand why Neely was killed. That made no sense to me. I just don't have a clue. And again, I did not understand the end. You say it's science fiction. I don't understand what happened to the people. I didn't see any clues. Nothing involving UFOs appeared to be there. I mean, he shoots off something into the sky, but that's all. Just a flare gun or something. And didn't exactly understand the suitcases. There's obviously something that people were going to take with them, but I didn't understand that. And something had to do with the number 11. You'll notice that the room that John Person, the protagonist, stayed at the motel was room 111. And near the end, the number 11 came up a couple of times, including on the bowling shoes. So something was going on involving 11 or 111. Also, 11 was a number that he was offered if he wanted to leave that evening, I think. But I didn't understand that. His name, John Person, sounded like a joke to me. He's a person. There were other things about the plot that seemed to be very specific. This is in 5BB. John Person drove an old VW microvan, and then you see there at the bar an old orange VW Beetle. So we got two VW vehicles. I did not understand why Randy was killed, other than he was a pain. And I didn't understand why Neely was killed. So, a number of things about the movie bothered me purposely. We were just supposed to be guessing about those things. I don't know. But that's the reason that I have some limit. I like the movie in general, but these things I don't understand are bothering me, especially at the end of the movie. One little thing I noticed you might be interested in is on the movie, at the motel, the sign said of the free Twinkie on their outside sign. And of course, when he checked in, there was a free Twinkie on the bed. Of course, the blue eyes thing wasn't clear. At the end of the movie, Grace suddenly had blue eyes, and then it appeared that at the very, very, very last scene, that John was getting blue eyes. What did that mean? Did that mean they were leaving with the next team that went up wherever they went? Who knows? I think that's all I have on the plot in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Something to think about. I did not notice the reoccurrence of the number 11 elsewhere in the film. I should have, because it was right in front of me. But we still don't know what it means. I'm trying my best to find out. Okay, next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony goofed off this evening. We didn't hear from him until suddenly he appeared for this movie. So it was important enough to stay up late. So, Tony, what did you think about The Big Empty from 2003, plot-wise?
Well, I am very curious to hear what other people thought about it. I thought it was kind of odd. Despite death and the threat of death, I found it mostly sort of lighthearted and weird. I wouldn't give it an A. I'm not even sure I'd give it a B. Kind of a C+. The plot seemed to be just trying to suggest in an odd way that the world was quirkier than we think. There were a lot of very strange people, and I think events that, yes, as Bill hinted, were deliberately, designed not to make sense and to allow us to fill in things with our own imagination. So I enjoyed the movie's hint that the world might be more interesting than we think. Although, why you have to wear tracksuits to go to outer space, I don't know. It made me think of two things. One was the mass suicide of the Heaven's Gate cult that thought they were all going to go ride on the comet into outer space. Although I don't think any of them had blue suitcases. The other thing it made me think of, if you want a movie that did a great job of making the world look more interesting and encouraging us to, kind of look around us and pay attention to the quirky people we meet, Big Fish, which I believe came out the exact same year was a movie that I only saw once, but now want to see again. I just enjoyed it a lot, and it really, made me want to just pay more attention to the world around me. And, wait, what if that person really has been kidnapped by aliens? Listen to their story. So yeah, the plot kept me watching. It was very open-ended. It made me think also a little bit about the show Twin Peaks. This would have been a sort of a lesser episode of Twin Peaks, not one of the really awesome ones, but, it was a little Twin Peaks-ish with strange things happening that we don't really understand. Ultimately, yeah, it needed to be either weirder or have a more satisfying ending. I don't know. Well, I actually don't know. I'm really here to see or hear what other people think. NC5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Next up, we're all puzzling over this plot. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, you need to unlock this plot for us. The Big Lebowski, the dude abides, I guess. What do you think from KE5 ICX?
Okay, thank you. Well, that was just something that hit me, because there are just a few things that reminded me of. There's a lot of bowling in the Big Lebowski, and lots of sort of people that have money, and they're just kind of messing around and sleeping around, and it just kind of gave me that vibe. It was sort of it felt like a Coen Brothers meets some kind of post-Tarantino gratuitous violence just thrown in for the heck of it, because people are asking, why did Neely get killed? Why did Randy get killed? And why was the cowboy so, why was he so violent? Why, and of course a lot of the accounts of him are in the plot are very sort of circumstantial. It makes it look like he's a serial killer or or worse. Not that you can be a whole lot worse than that, but I think the plot was supposed to be kind of that transcendental sort of guy stuck in a rut, is somehow discovered by aliens, maybe. And I do think the tracksuits and all that referred to the stuff from the 90s, the cult behavior, people all wearing the same track shoes or something when they think they're going to be abducted, and they all end up committing suicide. And so it makes it like, well, what happened to these people? Did they really get taken by aliens, or was it like a cult thing, or was it a group mentality thing, or a group psychosis thing, or a group delusion thing, or but at the end, it's like a lot of these kind of movies end where it's like you make up your mind, but then it seemed like it was trying to push us into, well, it really is something alien, because I think it was implying that in the 3 days, or even the time when the cowboy had brought Grace with him, that somehow she ended up going, she crossed over, and so she's with John at the end, and they're bowling, and the bowling bag and the bowling shoes, and they were blue. I used to have a pair of blue bowling shoes that looked just like that. I got them at like a thrift store or something when I was in college, and I just thought they were kind of cool, and I didn't bowl, so I just wore them as regular shoes. Anyway, I think that the ending implied that he got a strike on the 10th frame, and then she says, oh, on the 10th frame you get a second chance. Like if you get a strike, you get a bonus frame. And she's basically, to me it was pretty obvious that she's saying, you woke up and everybody was gone, and you saw what you saw, and you got your money, and you got to pay off all your debts, but you you didn't take the opportunity to go, and I don't know. At the end, it looks like Grace has crossed over to the other side, and now she's saying, you get a second chance to come with us, and he's got his magic bowling shoes on, and as soon as he bowls his second chance frame, he gets to go wherever, do whatever. So that's how that read to me. I applaud you, Bill, for noticing the necklace. I hadn't really put that together, that the two guys were wearing a weird necklace. I guess I was distracted by Neely's big neck brace thingy that he was wearing. Yeah, I think this was probably full of little clues and things. I won't say more, except I think the Twinkie refers to, something adult, and that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, I hadn't really put together the 11 in the room 111, and I don't know. It looks like this movie was made by people who love. I mean, Jon Favreau is, he's also a movie director, and he, and I think it was people who like stuff like the Coen Brothers or Stanley Kubrick, like The Shining and all the weird, numerology and symbols that way, and but it had that quirky, colorful feel, more like a Coen Brothers film, to the violence or just stark symbolism. But it looked like it was just a kind of make what you want out of it sort of a thing, and that was kind of a thing at that time. So those are kind of my thoughts. Everybody's spoken enough about the actual story points of the plot that I don't feel like I have a whole lot more to say about those. I followed the story. I was interested in how it went. I was a little surprised by suddenly it becoming quite violent at one point, but I think they tried to play it as over the top violence that isn't supposed to really be disturbing. But anyway, I'm okay with it. It was, I don't know if it's something I'll want to sit and watch again, because it did seem to be sort of doing a lot of things in a very self-aware sort of, imitating other things kind of way, but I thought it was all right. It leaves a little up to your imagination at the end, but I think it makes it pretty clear that there's some other better way to be than to be stuck in a rut, and there might be aliens or supernatural beings or cross-dimensional travel or something involved, and I don't know if it brought its theme home very well at the end. There wasn't like some moment where you go, oh, this makes my life feel like it means a little more. It just was one of those things you're trying to figure out, and I don't think it had that. I don't think it drove home any kind of a character arc or greater meaning. Like something a little more mysterious or something a little less self-aware. But overall, not bad. I followed it, and I was interested, and I cared about what happened to the characters. I could tell them apart. That's kind of round two, but anyway, yeah, I thought it was okay. Back to net, NV5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Good comments. I took some notes on your comments, so forming an opinion based on everyone else, that's the advantage of being the net control. You get to go last and build on the shoulders of giants, or Lebowskis. Next up is Ron. I'm going to wait on you. I'll ask you a question about what you think so far in a few minutes. Next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on plot from GE5 ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think it's been pretty well covered, actually. I agree with Virginia very much that I kind of had that same conclusion with the ending, that the changing of the eyes was, them making that transition to wherever they were going. And that was them being taken in, and I kind of had that same thought. Now, whether you think it's some kind of supernatural or aliens, they kept, the two guys there at the hotel kept talking about, aliens. So I guess they were telling you right there that it was probably the case, since obviously they seemed to be in on it. As far as, Bill's question about Ron being killed, well, he shoot the other guy, so that's why he stopped it. Now, why the guy back at the apartment, the guy's neck brace was killed, I don't know. That didn't seem to have a good explanation. So I'm not real sure on that one. But yeah, this movie definitely had a feel of, we had a lot of quirky movies kind of like this in the 80s and 90s, to where it had this little bit of a strange, take on aliens, and, it always tried to throw a little bit of odd sense of humor. And that's kind of what this did. As far as the humor goes, it was just, I wouldn't say it was, belly laugh kind of humor, just little subtle things. So, I guess it's kind of like that. That obviously was made in the 2000s, so it didn't quite have that feel of the 80s movies that I think they were trying to emulate. So for me, this was just, it was just okay. Not a movie I'd probably watch twice, but I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it. Just kind of just okay. In fact, I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5 is what I ended up rating it on the service there. But yeah, it was just okay for me. I think everybody, as Virginia said, we covered all the other plot holes. Yeah, I thought the 11 was pretty curious on the door, and then the shoes, and if 11 is other places, I probably missed it. I also missed the necklaces. Good catch, Bill. And if there were some other quirky things like that, I probably didn't notice it. One thing I did notice they forgot to tell us is what happened to the lady at the restaurant, or the bar. I know she said she'd go, for about ever left, she'd go to Hawaii, so I guess she went to Hawaii? Anyway, that's not a lot to say on this one. Back to that, KB9S, okay.
Thank you, Sean, and I just cribbed a couple of notes from what you just said, too. So I've got a few things to say, thanks to all of you. Next up, David, W5EBB. He's our guy who goes deep on movies. He's back. So, David, what do you think? What did you think about the plot for this one, The Big Empty from 2003?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for running the net. And again, that was the old David that took those deep dives. This is superficial David in here in 2026. But I thought this was a fun movie. I'd never seen it before. It is 23 years old, and I think the bar has been lowered in terms of current movie quality. So this one actually, I think, was above average, and I enjoyed it. It was kind of a mystery, and it had a lot of interesting, funny parts to it. Yeah, and his exact quote of what he wanted was $27,987.06. So there's got to be some kind of numerology with that number. I mean, we had 11s everywhere. 11 shoes, motel room, 111. The bonus frame would be number 11. I mean, and attempts to uncover hidden knowledge from numerology generally is not a good idea. But humans love to sprinkle them about here and there. A certain person testified and invoked the Fifth Amendment 111 times this past week, incidentally. But the color blue also, very pervasive. And the bowling balls, the eyes, which was actually the same kind of motif that was done in Midnight Special, that movie, which I really liked. But the movie's ending was about as inscrutable and incomplete as Disclosure Day, which was a huge disappointment. But yeah, the epilogue, though, was John's time was yet to come, as seen in that final scene at the bowling alley, which kind of, I think, sort of wrapped it up that, yeah, he was going to be the next traveler to whatever that destination was. But I thought it was a fine movie. It was it was well paced, and I enjoyed it. W5EBB.
All right, thank you, Superficial David. I thought you did pretty well with that one. So good. You came up with some good comments as well. Not as good as in-depth, David, but superficial still holds up. Okay, we're at the bottom of the list. I'll go ahead and ask if anyone else is out there would like to check in and comment about tonight's board, the Big Empty from 2003. Or if you just want to check in and say you're out there, that's perfectly okay too. Please come now.
Kilo Foxtrot Mike, Yankee Bravo Hotel, just checking in to say hi.
Okay, we picked up another. I think it's KF5 Yankee Bravo Hotel. Jeffrey, he's saying hi. Did I get that right? Well, I think he was just saying hi, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, I'll go ahead and make my comments. Boy, there were so many interesting comments that came out of this. I just started writing notes and writing in the column and all of that. Some of this can roll over into the second round, but a couple of things I want to mention is, yeah, this film has kind of this quirkiness to it. Coen Brothers, I think, that Virginia mentioned, very much like that. I'm sure they were inspired by this. There were a lot of movies in the 80s, and that was mentioned as well, that were like this. One of my favorites is Baghdad Cafe. If you've never seen that film and you kind of like that, the vibe that we got out of this film, there's no violence in it at all. It's very entertaining. I think you'll find it quite good. It's got some pretty good music in it, too. One of the songs hit the top 5 or top 10 on the charts when that movie came out. At any rate, it has that same kind of vibe, hotel, all of that. I think you'd enjoy it. Let's see. It started out very much as a comedy. John Person is somebody we could definitely relate to. He's an actor, and I love the fact that it always comes back. You have no messages. Every time he's looking for callbacks and nothing. So sounds like a real actor's in a position of non-power and not wanted. But we'll talk about that on the next round. At the ending, we're trying to figure out what the alien thing is all about. Benevolent. Cowboy kind of leaves us confused by his, shooting. Was it Randy, Ruthie's boyfriend in this, although he probably had it coming. It sort of, well, does that make sense? And then his ruthlessness at times, it made the aliens off as something, we don't know what. And that's where my beef came with the movie is that we get a lot of times enough messages in films, particularly ones with an alien slant, to tell us what's going on and potentially what the motivation of the aliens are. Star Trek was always notorious or famous for that. The aliens or the whatever the antagonist was in the episode or movie had a motivation, and it seemed like it was something that was seditious in some way, undermining and evil, and it turns out that usually they were curious or somehow seeing things differently, but in a non-threatening way in the end, in the way they saw it. So this, we don't know. There's no way to know. And this is what drives me nuts with movies like this, where they just don't quite give you enough information. We don't know. And so there's a bit of an unsatisfactory ending. I like the comparison, although Virginia just kind of dismissed it flippantly, but I think she's right in the sense that it is sort of Close Encounter, as the third kind meets the Big Lebowski. But Close Encounters, yes, because there is a lot of, and this again, maybe this should go in the second round, but John Person and Roy Neary, I can't think of his last name, from Close Encounters is a very similar character. Roy decided to go on the spaceship. John does not. But he comes out transformed anyway after 3 days in the desert. What does that mean in the end? Is he one of them, and why, and how, and all of that? As a plot device, we don't know. We just can't figure it out. We've got the alien, we've got the RV showing up, sort of like the mothership, kind of that same vibe to it. The guys get out of the thing like they do in Close Encounters in the jumpsuits with the little insignia on them. I guess they've been chosen or something. This is the next group that goes up. We get a story from the Indian, who was that? Bob, Indian Bob, who says, I can't handle this crap anymore. And he leaves because he's getting tired of apparently having to orchestrate the abductions, whoever does the abductions, I guess Cowboy and Company. And we never really know, perhaps, maybe saying this out loud, that the shoes are that thing that transports you to something new and different. We know the big empty is a clue to the name, empty existence, empty feelings. Going to a new big empty out into space? I don't know. Possibly, or a transition. That's possible. I did Google the significance of the number 11. It's considered a master number, a powerful master number that does not reduce to a single digit. It is linked to high psychic awareness, strong intuition, and visionary thinking. And it says it's a spiritual bridge, acts as a connection between the physical world and the spiritual realm. Now, I don't have citations on that. I'm sure there's a whole thing you can look up on your own on that, but maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that's why number 11 is so important. I don't know. It's not explained, nor is it implied very well. So now I go back on my gripe. What is it they're trying to tell us with this? Are these clues? If they are, they need to be more defined clues so they got something to work off of. So, was it a bad film? No, I enjoyed it, and we'll get into the characterization. I thought that was the single most entertaining thing about the film is the characters really pull this film through and bring it from something that is kind of not that good, but with the actors, it wasn't that bad, and they could maintain. I stayed awake through the whole darn thing, so that's pretty darn good. I have a hard time getting past 9 o'clock, but I got all the way through this one. So I think it had, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was pretty good. Is it something that that I watch again? Maybe. On a rainy day sometime when I got nothing better to do, I might consider it. Okay, with that, those are my comments. We'll go ahead and go to the top of the list again. This time we'll talk about the characterization and the acting for The Big Empty from 2003. So we'll begin with Bill, N5DV. Bill, what do you think about the acting and characters from KE5 ICX?
Okay, this is N5DV. By the way, I've looked at some discussion online about this movie. Some of it from people that saw it when it first came out. It was evidently an alternative ending that some people saw, which we did not appear to see. Also, I wonder if there were different edits of this thing. A lot of people online were commenting about bandages on people's necks, which I did not notice, but evidently Grace had a bandage. The girlfriend at the very start, she had a bandage on her neck, and later in the net, John Person had a bandage on his neck, and even the IRS agent had a bandage on his neck. So, and I think also Neely, who also had that weird neck brace looking thing, I think he had a bandage on his neck. So, and they talked at some point about them removing eggs and sperm or something from your neck. So, and then 11 11 is evidently some kind of magic number. And bowling, was in there several times. I agree with you about the circle, and which is a big nothing, by the way. And it's showing up several times, including him putting a circle with his name in the middle of it. And remember, we got the cowboy, and then we got the Indian out there in the desert. We got the cowboys and the Indian. I think this purposely had a lot of these Easter egg things in it, a lot of these things we're supposed to notice. Going back to characterization. This is in 5BD. I guess I thought and the acting, that the character of John Person was a reasonable characterization. He was somebody that wasn't going anywhere, and he was trying to go somewhere different. And at the end of the movie, maybe after the event in the desert where he lost 3 days, maybe he's in this new alternate universe, and that's why he's at the bowling alley. Grace has the blue eyes, and after he bowls an extra frame, his eyes turn blue too. His life is changing. So blue eyes had something to do with the changing of people's lives and things or something, this whole event. But the characterizations, I thought his was okay. You had some empathy for him. I think you had empathy for Grace also, the woman at the start of the movie. This is in 5BD. You had empathy for Stella, who was Daryl Hannah with dark hair and other things, but yeah. And Ruthie, I think you had, empathy for them. You had a little empathy for Candy, the stripper there at this point in there. You even had a little bit of empathy for Dan, the crazy guy with his hat that said, "Dan, I'm Dan," or something. So I think some of those characters you had some empathy for. The cowboy, you didn't know whether to hate him or to kind of have a neutral opinion about him, because you weren't sure exactly what he was doing. He seemed to have a job to do. And it wasn't clear to me that he was the one deciding to do that job. It was like he was being directed by either others or somehow fate was directing him to do this. It seemed like the way he acted that, he still had more of this to do. So, I don't think we had empathy for him. I don't think we hated him either. This is in 5BB. I think we all hated Randy. He was mean and evil, and he got his comeuppance. We kind of didn't like Neely, who ended up getting killed, because he was just kind of an unpleasant guy at the start. So it's like in this movie, everybody that was unpleasant kind of had a bad end. And most of the other people were reasonably likable, and they seemed to turn out okay. So that's an interesting thing about the characterizations. None of that bothered me. None of the acting bothered me. A lot of it I thought was just fine. So, again, my feeling about it is weird plot, a lot of kind of symbology and hidden things in there for you to discover, and that may have been the main thing. The writer, Anderson, may have been trying just to put a bunch of things in there that people would try to see the movie more than one time to figure them out. And that may have been his goal in 5BB. That's all I got.
Thank you, Bill. Next up, Tony, NT5TM. Your thoughts on characterization and acting for a film?
Thank you, Tom. I really enjoyed those first-round comments. Virginia, my hat is off to you if I hadn't already removed it. And I just keep thinking of other quirky films I've seen. When I see a strange movie that has a very open ending, I think of David Lynch very often. The color blue was very important to him, especially in the movie Mulholland Drive, which also featured a character known as the Cowboy. Although he was a lot more menacing than this cowboy, who, was more strange. We don't know if this cowboy is a good guy or a bad guy. David Lynch's cowboy seems to have been more of a hitman who liked Western wear. I did love the name of John Person. You could have also gotten away with calling him like Bill Everyman. Who came up with Person Man versus Triangle Man and Universe Man? I don't know. Person Man. You could tell them all apart. I really enjoyed looking at the Wikipedia cast list and have we met this person yet? Oh, now we're going to meet this person. I really enjoyed Kelsey Grammer as the world's least believable FBI agent who's a very frustrated actor. He made me smile very hard. When I compare him to, say, Special Agent Dale Cooper, or even David Lynch himself as an FBI agent, he was pretty darn amusing. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, this was never a laugh-out-loud movie, but it was often a movie that made me smile. Not brilliant, but I did enjoy the vague creepiness and the vague weirdness and otherworldliness. I really enjoyed how strong the characters were and how interesting they all were. Although I would like to point out that, I blanked on his name, but the motel manager, man, he was like the creepiest guy in the movie. Let myself into your room in the morning before you're awake to bring you a croissant or a crawler or whatever that was. Man, I didn't like him. But he didn't get taken to another world. He survived the movie, perhaps unchanged. The characters were really just amusing and weird. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. Next up, Virginia. Same question to you. Characters and acting. What do you think? From KE5I6.
Okay, well, the hotel manager's name was Elrond, which I can't believe any of us nerds would forget. He was a very weird guy. He himself was kind of a reference to Hawaii. There were a few references to Hawaii in this. Let's see. And we also had a character named the Cowboy in the movie Interspace, and he was supposed to be sort of a hitman, industrial espionage guy, but on a comic level for sure. He was played by Robert Picardo, if anyone remembers, the Doctor from Voyager way before he was the Doctor. Anyway, let's see. I thought these people were interesting. I could tell them apart. I think John Person was intended to be sort of a bland guy who wanted to be an actor, and maybe just, I don't know, maybe he wasn't interesting enough to be an actor, but he was certainly giving it a try, and his life was kind of bland and blah, and kind of the Close Encounters sort of set up, where you've got the guy in his kind of everyday workaday, mundane life, and you know, he did pretty good at that. And I mean, it's funny, I've seen him in so many movies now, and he's in most of the movies he directs, and it took me he did so good at playing like this bland guy that it took me a while for it to click, like, oh, that's Jon Favreau. So I was like, I know this guy. So yeah, I thought all the cast was pretty stacked. It was fun to see, you know, the different people just go at it like hard, like Kelsey Grammer does when he really does comedy. I love him in that movie Down Periscope, the submarine comedy. That's one of my favorite submarine movies. It's one of my favorite goofy comedies. So yeah, I liked him in this, and I thought everybody did a pretty good job. You know, the cowboy character was kind of mysterious. You didn't see him for the first half of the movie. And then when he showed up, it was odd that he had what I believe an Australian accent. Maybe New Zealander. No offense to any Australians or New Zealanders out there. Anyway, that was odd to me, the accent that he had, and but yeah, it was everybody was doing their best at their part, and despite maybe a lack of cohesiveness in maybe the theme or what the movie was overall trying to say, apart from just being mysterious and filmy and artsy, without being too art house, it was more of a quirky. It didn't really strike me as 80s at all. I really thought of all the early to mid 90s, like, you know, independent films that were really getting popular when I was in film school. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like just kind of a nod to those, or just a continuation of that, combining several of those styles. The over the top kind of hyperbolic violence, you know, as part of the broadness of the movie, you know, kind of reminded me of that. And then the color scheme. And this movie had a really warm color scheme, so the blue really stood out. I appreciated that, you know, just as a person who you know, likes color and use of color in films. So yeah, actors good, characters interesting enough for me to care about. Bill earlier was talking about having empathy with characters, and I don't think you're necessarily supposed to have empathy with the cowboy. He's supposed to be kind of scary. So he was doing his role pretty well, and you know, I do wonder what happened to Ruthie after she just, you know, hopefully she figured out that her daughter, Ruthie was the daughter, I think Stella was the mom, and I think she, you know, hopefully figured out that her daughter had run off, and I think she just kind of knew that her daughter was destined to run off and never be seen again, and because that's kind of how she, you know, appeared. And the band seemed very interesting. I do remember the remark about, like, you know, taking samples of sperm or eggs or whatever through your neck, which is very weird. It's kind of a weird approach, but okay. I guess it beats a anal probe or something like that, or sticking things up your nose or something. So anyway, I thought the actors were fine, and I thought it was probably one of those fun, you know, twists on the what I call the old. You remember the old 60s, 70s, and 80s? I called it the what did I call it? The all-star cast caper kind of film. It's a Mad World, or Smokey and the Bandit, or Cannonball Run, or whatever, those kind of movies. It was kind of a twist on that. Maybe, you know, you just get a bunch of good actors and a quirky script and a little film, and you know, just, you know, they can just kind of have fun with it and be over the top and, you know, crazy and unhinged a little bit. So yeah, I liked the cast and I liked the acting, and I appreciated the characters, and thought you know, Indian Bob. I like the cowboys and Indians. I appreciated that discovery there. This has a lot in it. It's got a lot of little details, and it might be a fun one to study at length at some point, if I'm ever so inclined. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. All good comments. Well, now, Ron, wake up. N5SQA. I think you're probably still out there. What do you think? We're going to ask your opinion. Is this a hit or a miss? Is this a film you would want to watch? Does it remind you of anything you've seen in the past? Would you be willing to sit down and spend an hour and 25 minutes watching this film from KE5 ICX? Well, you never know. Ron has a tendency to hang out there and lurk, and he has responded in the past, but he may have decided it's time for Betty Bye. We'll see. All right, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. What did you think of the characterization and acting in our fine film, The Big Empty from 2003?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I agree with the group. I think the acting and the characters was the strongest part of this film. I do think our main character, John, did actually have some growth. It took him to the very end to figure it out. After all, it seemed like he was ignoring his neighbor, which became his girlfriend. He finally noticed her, realized it. At the very end, obviously, he figured out that, yeah, the acting thing wasn't such a big deal. And then that's kind of when he made that transition to Blue Eyes and transcended on. So, so I think we've seen some growth there. I think Ruthie, there was growth there. She finally realized she had worth and decided to try something bigger and left. So, you were very sympathetic with these characters. So that once again, I agree with everybody. Characters were definitely a strong point. So yeah, I did like most of the characters. After listening to everybody, obviously the beautiful thing about this net is it just, sometimes changes your opinion a little bit. And not that my opinion has changed a ton, because I still like the film, but I think it did make me feel that after hearing what everyone else had to say, maybe the message itself, the ending wasn't quite as important as, just the ride, just the fun. I think there was a lot of, whoever wrote this clearly was paying homage to other films to some extent. I think he was having fun with all the hidden things, like the 11, all the crazy numbers. I think they were just trying to figure out how they can twist all this together and just make a fun little comedy. Because at the end of the day, I think this is really what it was. And I do think that the ending did have a little bit of a message of appreciating life and just not letting yourself stand stagnant. But, beyond that, I don't know that there's any huge meaning in this. But I think it was a decent message overall and just kind of a little quirky, fun little film. So, maybe I'd raise it to 2.8 stars instead of 2.5. Anyway, and don't got a lot else to say about the characters. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Wow, the ratings are going up. Bye, before it goes too high. Okay, thanks, Sean. Next up is David, W5EBB. David, what do you think? Characterization and acting from KE5 ICX.
Yeah, I thought the actors were good. It was a diverse set of characters, and it was interesting to see Daryl Hannah. I did not recognize her at first. It's like, oh, it's Pris. Look, she's grown up. But the motel manager, Elron, was played by John Greaves, and it's like, I've seen him before. He was the uncle in Napoleon Dynamite. And let's see, the other characters were well played. I did enjoy seeing Kelsey Grammer, and he was kind of playing a bipolar sort of a character. You didn't know if he was the good FBI agent or the bad FBI agent. You really couldn't tell. But the cowboy at the end was revealed in a subtle way with the blue shimmer along his neck as clearly being non-human, and perhaps presaged earlier by the description of a certain atypical protrusion. The people with the blue eyes, I think the clue was they're either already transitioned or they're becoming more of the alien type, or they're being promoted in some way. So that the ones with the blue eyes could either be helpers, like Grace. She may have been, one of them the whole time, because she was helping John the whole way, and or they may be messengers like Neely, or they may be Avengers like the cowboy. But you could see the characters. You could see people. Some were just sort of treading water, like Dan, and others were being quickly demoted or needing a redo, like Randy, who was not a very pleasant character. But I think in all, you see people in different states in their lives, and they're being helped in certain ways by certain others, that in ways that they may not realize. And I thought that was kind of an interesting undertone to the movie, and made it enjoyable. W5EBB.
All right, thank you, David. Thanks for your comments. Let me see if I can get, I think it's Jeffrey, KF5YBH. Are you still out there? You were very weak signal earlier, and we didn't get you on the second round. But if you are out there, you're welcome to make any comments. Go ahead from KE5I6. Do we have any additional check-ins for the Big Empty from 2003? Come now. All right, well, I'll make my comments. I will agree with everyone. I won't go over details again. I liked all the characters. Many of these folks are well-known character actors or well-known actors that have appeared in plenty of stuff. Carol Hannah alone has appeared in over 100 movies herself, so we know that. Bud Cort, we all know from quirky films, Harold and Maude. John Favreau, I recognize him. I should know all the things he's been in, I guess, but I liked him as a semi-sympathetic character. I had no problems with him at all. Everybody, Kelsey Grammer is Kelsey Grammer. He could read the phone book, and I'd enjoy it. I think he's just a wonderful actor. He does a wonderful job. His over-the-top Agent Banks is just fantastic, and it's so funny to watch him. I agree with what Tony mentioned. You put a smile on your face. All you have to do is see his face, and you know something goofy is going to come out. Gary Farmer, who played Indian Bob, he didn't have much of a role. He's very good. He has appeared with Adam Beach in two other films. He was in what was the movie? Smoke Signals. Smoke Signals was the movie. He played his father in that. It was a very good movie. If you've not seen that film, the two of them are great in that film, and it's sort of a walkabout story type of thing. It's a very good movie. It's based on a book, I think, called, The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fight in Heaven, I think is the name of the movie. Name of the book, and it is a comedy, kind of a little tragic, but still a very good film. I think Adam Beach is a wonderful actor and continues to act to this day. And you didn't get to see him much in this one, mostly with the angry, crazy Randy role, but he's a very good actor. He's very fun to watch on screen. Everybody else did a wonderful job. Elron, the manager at the creepy Royal Hawaiian Motel, he was great. I love that character. I tell you what, I did a lot of travel through the years, and I was on the road for about 15 years. And so I stayed at a lot of weird, crazy hotels through the years. I've met a lot of people. I'd stayed at some hotels so frequently that I would get Christmas cards sent to my home from people that signed by the people at the hotel. I'd check in and they would have my stuff ready and by name. They recognized my car. I mean, I traveled a lot and I went to the same places. So you ended up with a lot of these kind of interesting characters along the way, and they were characters. You be in the hospitality business even a little bit, you'll realize that. There's even times I've met and seen on television a couple of the hotels that I stayed at for various reasons. One of them was one of those human interest makes you cry at the end stories, was at one of the hotels that I stayed at regularly up in Oklahoma City. So, and the truck stop, boy, did that look familiar. Pratt, Kansas. It looked just like that. That was the only place you could find to eat in Pratt, Kansas at the time. They've since grown some civilization, but not much. But at any rate, I enjoyed it. Loved the characters quite a bit. Okay, well, we've got, I think, barely enough time to get through another round, so we'll go ahead and do that. We'll start at the top with Bill, N5DB. Just to refresh your memory, a third round, anything you want to talk about, or special effects, or technical aspects of the film, or something you missed on the first two rounds. Go ahead, Bill, N5DB from KE5, ICX.
Yes, sir, Tom. This is N5DB. Well, when I heard the name of the hotel manager, Elron, I only thought of one thing, which I hadn't heard anybody mention. This is L. Ron Hubbard. The only L. Ron I've ever heard of is L. Ron Hubbard. So, and L. Ron Hubbard was a very, some people would say, completely crazy guy. Developed Scientology and diagnetics, and was a science fiction author. Had bogus e-meters and devices that supposedly did things they didn't do. And people described him as, let's see, what was the description I read? He was kind of mentally ill. He was, just a moment. Well, I'm trying to find the comment I was thinking. Oh, malignant narcissism. There we go, malignant narcissism. And somehow some things about him remind me of the Elron character in this movie. So, and he was wanting you to drop your body and think about all of these other things. So I'm thinking that there was a little part of that L. Ron Hubbard and what he thought about that was being thrown into this movie also. Okay? This was the first movie of this director, author, director, producer. I think he was going to make a movie that had certain ideas he put in there, like about people that were a big zero and places that were a big zero. They were empty. People trying to reinvent themselves, etc. And other things. And that's why he put so many little Easter eggs in in there, like the 11s. And by the way, L. Ron Hubbard was born in 1911. Anyway, so another reason I think he wanted to make this movie is I thought the part of the movie that impressed me the most. By the way, this is inside BB. The part of the movie that impressed me the most was out there in the desert, in the night, in the twilight, and just that big flat desert, and making that circle in that big flat desert, and then in the distance, here comes the Winnebago, whatever it was, delivering the people, and just that whole view of that, the cinematography, the location, really was, I think, the key of the movie right there. I think that was the key of the movie. Did you notice that when they were talking in the bar in town, the character Dan, the guy with the hat with his name on it, he was saying that they were surveying for the bullet train that was going to ruin the town. I think we need to think about that too. There was a proposal for a bullet train. I don't know if it was going to go through that location, but the other idea is the bullet train is something that can take you away from your life quickly somewhere a long way away. You know, think about a bullet train is it will whisk you away somewhere else. And that's exactly what happened out in the desert. They were whisked away somewhere else. Now, I guess you could view different things there. You could view the cowboy as being an alien, but I'm not sure. I'm not really positive about that. The blue eye thing, I don't know. Is that just meant for us? Or were their eyes really turning blue? Or maybe that was just a sign that they had changed, kind of for the viewer of the movie as opposed to a real life thing. I don't know. Was the cowboy the devil? Not sure about that. Or was he some other person or creature that was supposed to be performing one of these things, like Chiron, or whatever his name was, that rode the boat to Styx to the afterworld? Was he some kind of character that would get you there, kind of help transfer you to the next location? I don't know. So I think this was a bunch of those different thoughts all mashed together. I wish that the end of the movie had been written differently so that you had some more structure to that, some clear ideas about what was happening. What I took away from it is the most likely thing is that when they're back after his 3 days in the desert, you're seeing it from his point of view, and he's in an alternate universe. He's in a different existence. Things turn out great for him. He's getting a job. Grace is being very pleasant with him. He's bowling fantastically. His eyes are finally turning blue. The FBI is nice to him. He has his $27,000. All his debts are paid off. So he's kind of in a different plane of existence after this event. So maybe we could consider it just, the idea that you could change your life and come out differently. Actually, this is Inside BB. when I retired, I decided to change some things about my life. And I dramatically changed my house. I tore down, built a new one differently, and was involved with different organizations I hadn't been involved with as much before, and other things. So I made some personal choices in my life when I retired. And so some of that, this movie had a little attraction to me because of that. So I think maybe we need to not look at this movie literally, but think of it as just some themes that are being shown to us, and some really neat cinematography out there in the desert. And I think that's everything I could possibly say. N5BB. See you.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thanks for your comments tonight. I think you were very introspective and nice perspective on things that were in this film and some of your comments. Now, I want to caution everybody, we're going to be going over the bewitching hour at 12 midnight. Don't do what I did last week and time out the repeater. At this point, in 3 minutes, the timer will be activated again. So I would recommend that as you speak, you just drop carrier every couple or 3 times in the course of a minute to 2 minutes, and you won't cause the repeater to time out. We'll continue with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your final comments from KE5 ICX.
Well, hopefully only my final comments for this week. Let's see. Yep, Chris was great, but I will always think of Daryl Hannah as Madison from Splash. Great bocce ball. I'm really tickled that someone, I don't know who to give the credit to, mentioned Cannonball Run. Yeah, I remember that movie when I was little and hearing Roger Moore say, Roger Moore instead of Bond, James Bond. It's been too long since I saw that. This movie also, just while people were talking, I thought of a song that was really popular when I was a little kid. Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue. That was all over the radio. Even radio stations that didn't play country music played that song by Crystal Gayle. So here it is really happening for them, thanks to the influence of the aliens. So yeah, just like Sean, I think my review of this movie has come up. Maybe I would upgrade it from a C+ to a B-. It's been a lot of fun hearing other people's opinions and takes on it. I really appreciate everybody's comments. It's what makes it worth staying up for. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Thanks for your comments. Next up, Virginia, NV5F. Your final comments.
Well, I'm with everyone else. The more we compare notes on this, the more I am interested in it and what it was actually saying or doing. I was in a conversation with someone earlier today that wasn't necessarily purposeful, but in this respect. But but after hearing Bill's comments about that, that power to just change things or be open to change, I'm at kind of a moment in my life where I feel like that's something to consider. Not that the movie was it was not saying whatever it was saying heavy-handedly at all, which I appreciate. Nice catch, Tony, on Crystal Gayle, and that reference to brown eyes turning blue. I appreciate that very much. I'm going to go with how this compares and contrasts to what we watched last week. I wouldn't consider either movie a science fiction movie per se, but they both had those kind of broad, big life messages about starting again, maybe a different take on this similar subject. They also had that mysterious aspect. The suspension of disbelief was definitely required for both of these. They were both made in kind of an artsy style. Had some well-known actors in them, so it's just kind of almost like a double shot of the same kind of feel. But this one definitely had a different vibe about it as far as feeling. This one felt a little more 90s, and then the one from last week, the Jim Carrey one, that felt a little more like it was trying to be a little more art house, whereas this one felt a little more like it was trying to be quirky indie film kind of thing. And I do feel like there's a difference. So those are my thoughts. I found this just after hearing everybody talk about it, that it's maybe a little more than it appears on the surface, which is kind of what the movie itself was about. And I like movies like that where they can kind of be all things to all people in some ways. I think that's why 2001 has so much staying power. There's my 2001 plug for the week, because it has a little bit. It's a little more accessible in the grand scheme of Kubrick's films as a film that can be just about anything to anybody, and I think this movie's got a little bit of that. So that'll be it for me. I don't want to hang around too long and wear out the repeater or make it overheat. Back to Ned in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Thanks for your comments tonight. Next up, Sean, KB9SOK, your final comments from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I don't have a whole lot to add, actually. I think everybody's kind of covered it. Obviously, there wasn't much in the way of special effects. Not much in the way of the movie as far as music. But overall, it was enjoyable. As usual, very much enjoyed the conversation. It was interesting to hear everybody's different take on it. I will say, I forgot to say earlier, somebody asked about why the extraction point was on their neck versus a more practical place, and that would be because, well, they can't show you that practical place. How else could they show you the Band-Aid? Anyway, looking forward to next week as always. Back to that, KB9SOK.
And thank you, Sean. Next up, David, W5EBB, your parting shot from KE5ICX.
W5FC.
Well, this would just be speculation, but following up on the Scientology theory, it may be if there were an extended version of this movie, we would have seen Douglas DC-8 descending from the skies to retrieve the souls of the people who were going to transcend. W5EBB.
All right, well, short and sweet. Thank you, David. Thanks for your comments. It's always a pleasure having you here when you check in. Okay, my final comments. Not much to say, except that I really did actually enjoy this film, and I enjoyed it even more with this discussion we had tonight, so I upgraded a bit. Maybe a B- for me as well. Rather enjoyed it. Certainly the desert and the real-life locations, I think, made this movie. And, of course, the strong cast between the two of them really brought something concrete to the movie. Was it an A-list? No. Is it worth watching again? Maybe. I think I would watch it again. No doubt about it. Maybe see if I could glean a little more meaning out of the film. Maybe some of the symbology would work. But doing my little research here through the interwebs, I don't I don't think we're going to gain any additional introspective outside of what it is, that we become better people or different people given the opportunity. So with that, next week's movie, I had an opportunity. I watched 50s movies that people have never seen that should, that were from the science fiction, craziness that went along with it. So I have a bunch of new movies that are old movies, and I still have some that are still in the queue that are newer. So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go with a 1950s movie. So I'm going to double check this, make sure we haven't seen it, because I just wrote them down as I watched the video. We will do, holy heck, these have got the Russian thing on it. Let me pick a different one. Hang on. The two that I had links to have Russian links. I know people get nervous with that, and I do too. So I'm going to pick this one, World Without End from 1956 on dailymotion.com. So it should be safe enough. That will be next week's movie. I will send out the link information to you about it. So we'll go back to the 50s. Back to the future, everybody. Had a lot of fun with this one. We'll do this again next week. This is KE5, ICX Clear. Thanks for a really enjoyable evening.
Thank you so much, Tom, for staying up with us. NT5TM, going to bed.